Hi, everybody. Paul Lachance here. I'm going to do a preview of our State of Education software report. We'll cover the current state of the education sector. We'll do some overview on what is the education sector, including headwinds and tailwinds. We'll get into the SaaS software landscape and mergers and acquisitions observations. Headwinds, tailwinds, and market drivers. Headwinds and tailwinds. Some are headwinds for the industry, which might be tailwinds for the technologies companies that create it. But let's just kind of run through it. From a headwind stand, we break this out by K-12 and higher education. Sometimes they cross over pretty significantly, other cases not. Headwinds, funding cliffs. This is one we hear a lot. Those schools that use the ESSER funding, which was during COVID, so they could, on an emergency basis, purchase technology that would help their school districts, especially with remote learning, those funds are drying up. They'll be done by September of 2024 in many cases. Those schools that used those CapEx funds for what would normally be an operational budget purchase, SaaS software, they're going to be in some challenges there to renew subscriptions. That is garnering a lot of news in the sector. Other headwinds include teacher burnout, shortages, and retirements. We'll get into retirements, and teachers and staff have been through a lot in this industry. They need tools to help them with their heavy workloads. And there's more of a gap in achievements, grades, and other metrics have widened, especially since COVID. Lots of tailwinds. Technology advancements are giving schools all kinds of opportunities to battle against these headwinds. Focus on social emotional learning. We'll cover this in more detail, but taking into account the whole student and a variety of other aspects that are generating interest, which we'll cover in this report. Higher education have a series of headwinds as well. Demographic shifts, different types of learners are coming into these different educational institutions. Costs are rising. I think higher education is rising at a rate much faster than normal CPI, normal inflation, and considered one of the more challenging expenses in the US right now. There are tools, there are ways we can battle those costs without sacrificing the student experience, and a variety of other headwinds that the report goes into more detail. Tailwinds, closing the skills gap, workforce development. There are all kinds of awesome educational opportunities that are appearing for sort of your non-traditional college university student, professional certificates, advanced manufacturing type learning, and so on. Technology innovation is amazing in this sector as well. The opportunity for more globalization, where you can take students from anywhere that can participate in these sort of massive online classes, partnerships with government, with industry, and so forth. But there's a variety of other tailwinds we cover in the report. From a sort of macroeconomic headwind and tailwind perspective, there's some really challenging aspects of our society, our economy right now. Inflation, and while it's down from this like high score 2022 of 9.1%, it's down. It's gone below 3%. It's still expensive to operate in today's business climate. Energy, a very expensive part of all school budgets. Still pretty high. It's come down from the highs, but it's still expensive. And labor. Labor is a huge challenge. What was the great resignation during the pandemic became the great reshuffle. It settled down some, but with the massive exit of the baby boomers that are retiring, and they really affect especially operational type jobs in the education industry, it really creates a burden. We'll cover some of those examples in the report. And finally, the supply chain. And whether you're ordering books or spare parts to keep your campus up and running, we've been through a lot with the supply chain. And if you look at this chart over here, if you look into the shock factor of what can mess up a supply chain, I mean, normal things like the Baltimore Bridge collapse or the recent railway challenges in Canada, which would normally cause major ripples in the supply chain. We have trade disputes, US-China trade tariffs. We have a financial crisis, which we're still just trying to get out of. We have two global military conflicts, And we're just recently out of an extreme pandemic. I mean, this is right up there with super volcano and meteor strikes and solar storms in terms of shock factor to our supply chain. That has direct and indirect impact on all aspects of society, including our educational institutions. So let's kind of break out the sector. What is the state of education? Well, we break it out by K-12 and higher education. They're both huge, and they mean a lot of different things. K-12 is a lot of different kinds of schools, from that traditional brick and mortar school that I went to homeschooling to online schools. There are a lot of students. This is US data here. There are a lot of school districts. There are a lot of teachers in the school systems. We spend a lot of money as a country. We're getting close to $1 trillion in expenditures in the K-12. It costs $17,000 per student on average to educate. And the market size is huge. Some would argue, can we save some money here? I would argue we can, but we can do it most importantly without sacrificing the student and staff outcomes. So there's also, from a higher education standpoint, we break it up into a variety of different types of colleges. There are a lot of them. It actually is a much bigger technology market than the K-12, while expected to grow. So digital transformation is the concept, and it has the word digital in the word, but it's not really about technology. It's about looking at things differently. It's about shifting the mindset to look at the challenges and opportunities that face our educational institutions and look at them differently. And then when you identify them, that's where the technology, that's where the digital comes in. If you don't have enough people to do the work in your school, well, is there a way technology can help ease that burden? That's the digital transformation mindset, and that's what SaaS software can really help with. It ultimately focuses on a positive student-staff outcome. It focuses on efficiency, better asset management, and financial, better budget adherence. There's lots of different challenges and opportunities that need digital transformation. These are just a couple of examples. Deferred maintenance. There was this mindset in the past, and I've been around this space for decades, where you just build a new school. You just build a new school. You can't do that anymore. We don't have the real estate. We don't have the funding. We have to be more proactive about maintenance so our schools are resilient and they create a better environment for our students to learn. Mass retirements and skill shortages we talked about earlier. There's just not enough people to get it done. And opportunities, the potential for what can the internet, what can mobile devices, what can tools like augmented reality and virtuality do to enhance our learning? Key elements of digital transformation include a holistic approach that involves the entire organization. Technology is amazing, but it's not great when some person in some office somewhere says, hey, we're going to implement this technology across our school. I believe you have to involve the entire organization, all the stakeholders that will use and benefit these technologies to make sure it's done correctly, implemented correctly, and it's adapted or adopted by the team in a way that they really get the benefits and want to use it. Industry 4.0 technology really helps. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, the Internet of Things, cybersecurity, and a variety of other technologies are driving digital transformation and ultimately can really help us with data-driven decision-making, just making smarter decisions with all of that data that we have in our facility, in our schools. SaaS software is more and more relying on this intersection of the physical and digital worlds, especially artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things. We're connecting to our facilities, our assets, our vehicles, and our people. These are just a couple of high-level examples, but like indoor air quality. There are readily available sensors that can be put in a classroom or in a staff office that will monitor volatile organic compounds, CO2 levels, airflow, temperature. Studies have shown poor air quality will have negative impact on student outcomes. Monitor it. If there's a problem, requisition somebody to go and fix it. All can be done with these sensors and SaaS software. Also, energy usage, monitor the energy, making sure that we are being as optimized as we can. Again, sensors can help us look with these energy management platforms because it's such an expensive line item in schools to really optimize how we're using our energy and where we can find savings. Another example is bus routing, communication optimization, sensors in buses that show location, that can properly route the bus. You get a message from your app that says Jimmy is sick today. Route that bus to skip Jimmy's street. Maybe it saves us a couple dollars in fuel. Maybe it saves some little bit of time, but all of that adds up. So optimized bus routes, again, saving a lot of fuel. These are examples. And then just general sensor IoT deployment. I'll run through an example here called the PF curve. Now, I know this is a bit of an eye chart, but the PF curve is the concept that when you have a school, you have a facility, you install assets in that facility. I'll use the example of an HVAC unit. How you keep your schools warm and cool. Those assets require maintenance. When you install that asset and it's put in that school, in that facility, that's the best that asset is ever going to run. Over time, that asset's going to continue to perform, but eventually hits the P point in the PF curve. That's the point at which failure can be detected. You can't see it. You can't smell it. You can't tell that that asset is having trouble with our human ears and eyes. But if you continue to ignore it, it's going to continue to degrade. And eventually it's going to hit the F, the functional failure in the PF curve. That's when that asset can no longer keep up with its intended design. That's when quality really drops. And if you continue to ignore that situation with that asset, you're going to hit catastrophic failure, unplanned downtime, replacement of that asset. The role of maintenance and operations professionals in the education world is to push up the PF curve. We do that with preventive maintenance. Once a month, we go check that HVAC unit, maybe change the filter. Better yet, as you get closer on the PF curve, you let sensors that are in the assets tell you this filter is 75% clogged. You need to come and replace it. So pushing up the PF curve, catching those problems sooner than later will really help. It minimizes that downtime. It keeps those assets in those buildings healthier and running better. And it saves a ton of money. If you catch things early on the PF curve, like way up here, your typical maintenance work order, and these numbers have been sort of averaged out for example's sake here, is going to be $1 a work order. You catch it way down here at the bottom of the PF curve, it's 500% more expensive. And that's just simply because of neglect. If you catch them early, and that's what SaaS software does, enterprise asset management, CMMS software, sensors in the buildings to drive these things, pushing up the PF curve, you really can save a ton of operational budget. Not to mention capital expenditures. That HVAC unit, if you ignore it and it crashes and burns and you have to prematurely replace it, is going to be significantly more expensive than if you catch those problems here. Or maybe there's no replacement necessary at all if you're living up here in the PF curve. That's what this SaaS software, especially in that digital physical world interface, aided by sensors, AI, and machine learning, can really help with. There's a number of other awesome innovations that we're seeing in SaaS software in the education sector. Workflow, communication, and collaboration. Workflow, and it's permeating all these traditional types of softwares, SIS, LMS, EAM, you name it, all these different tools that have been around for a while, and these new ones that are coming out are getting smarter. Workflow is a great thing. You can have the software automatically do things. That's what workflow does based on different conditions, based on different actions, making the software smarter and really being able to adapt to your processes as opposed to you being forced to adapt processes based on the rigidness of the software. Communication, automatic notifications back and forth between parents and teachers and staff and bus drivers and maintenance people, you name it, so we can really short circuit or make faster the communication between people. That can really help. And collaboration, where we can work together, students on paper, students and teachers working together, the online learning platforms and so forth. So this innovation that we're seeing in this sector within SaaS software, making these software products even smarter and more intelligent is amazing. We're also seeing, we're adopting to today's, well, these learners have always had these challenges, but we're no longer just putting everybody in the same box. Social emotional learning is a good example. This is a process, a framework that teaches educational institutions to engage all types of learners and to find the learners where they are, taking into account mental health, what kind of a learner they are, what are the better ways they can hit their goals as a learner and to get better outcomes. So these are not necessarily technology things, but it's our ability to look at students on a much more individual basis, which has always been a challenge because you couldn't have personalized learning at scale in schools. There's just too many students, not enough teachers, not enough time. But personalized learning, which gets embedded into these educational software platforms, is making a real difference. So an example I like to use is I'm in a classroom. I'm looking at a blackboard in the front of the room. And to my right, somebody's sitting there. Maybe they have dyslexia, and they're having a hard time keeping up with the lesson on the blackboard. And the person to my left is bored stiff because they know all this and they crave more, whereas for me, it's just right. AI-powered personalized learning platforms give us the ability to tailor a better experience for all different kinds of learners, taking into account SEL, taking into account all the different factors, and making their experience individual. Teachers want to do this. They don't have the time at scale to do it. But these technologies make it easier for those teachers to have more personalized approach. That's going to lead to improved student engagement and motivation. That's going to lead to enhanced learning outcomes. That's going to make it easier for the teachers to do it. These are powerful innovations that we're seeing across all of these software platforms where applicable. And then gamification is another innovation. Gamification especially leans towards younger learners, but I don't know, my nutrition and exercise app, I love when I get my points on there. It makes learning more fun. It's just a different way, and anything we can do that can get across these learning opportunities and educational lessons, but makes it fun appropriately, well, we're seeing it, and it's finding its way into these SaaS software learning platforms. So let's kind of break up what is the SaaS landscape. We break it up again, K-12 versus higher education. In the K-12, we break it up into administration, student, teacher, staff, and operations. There are tons and tons of individual subgenres of SaaS software within all of these, and they will vary even across the different types of schools. The full report goes into all this in much more detail and breaks these up. But if you look at the market map, the Software Equity Group market map, there are a lot of categories. There are a lot of software companies that are supporting all of these different types of software categories. Again, between our website and the PDF version of this report goes into a lot more detail. You can look at these companies and these different subgenres. K-12, it's even bigger. I mean, we have enrollment, operations, administration, advancement, and fundraising, student, teacher, staff, and then continuing education and professional development. And again, these can vary based on the different types of higher education institutions. But the market map is also huge. There are a lot of, and it is crossover between K-12 and higher education for sure. In some cases, they're only in one or the other. Lots and lots of different companies. Again, you want to get into more detail on this, take a look at the full report, download the full report. We had to break this one up into 2 pages because of the additional 2 buckets in the higher education sector. So last section here is the M&A observations. Basically, there's a lot of excitement in this sector. The education software sector is seeing significant trends, including those personalized solutions for diverse academic needs, operational improvements for better infrastructure, administrative solutions for data analysis, and communication platforms for compliance. Private equity and strategic investors are they're listening to all this, and they're seeing the opportunities for investment. Private equity in particular has become a major player in this sector with over 60% of the deals. Again, if you get the full report, there's more of a readout on all of this technology. I've been on all this information on the M&A side. Software Equity Group, this is what we do. We know these sectors. We help our clients find their next investor. I welcome you to take a look at and become acquainted with Software Equity Group and learn more from us. Again, this is just a teaser to the full report. I hope you find it informational, but if you want more information, either get the whole report or please reach out. Thank you very much and have an awesome day.